Raymond Williams' The English Novel From Dickens to Lawrence offers an in-depth exploration of the development of the English novel across the 19th and early 20th centuries, focusing on how novels by Charles Dickens, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, and D.H. Lawrence respond to the socio-economic changes of their time. Williams examines the evolution of narrative styles, themes, and character types, presenting these novels as reflections of industrialization, class dynamics, and the changing structures of English society. Williams' Marxist perspective is evident, as he highlights how each novelist navigates the tensions between individual agency and societal constraints, as well as the impact of industrial capitalism on personal relationships, morality, and community. Williams begins with Charles Dickens, whose novels such as Oliver Twist, Bleak House, and Hard Times are not only beloved for their vivid characters and storytelling, but also serve as critiques of the harsh realities of industrial England. Dickens, through his empathetic portrayals of the poor and marginalized, reveals the failures of the social systems that neglect the working class. His emphasis on the grim realities of child labor, poverty, and bureaucratic indifference aligns with a broader critique of Victorian society. Williams notes that while Dickens' novels often seem sentimental and moralistic, they convey a deep moral outrage against the exploitation inherent in capitalist society. The sprawling, interconnected plots mirror the complexities and inequalities of urban life, capturing both the humanity of individual characters and the oppressive nature of the social order. George Eliot represents a shift towards a more introspective and philosophical approach in the English novel. Williams emphasizes Eliot's moral seriousness, particularly in Middlemarch, where she explores the limitations placed on individuals by societal expectations and personal conscience. Eliot's novels focus on characters navigating personal ambitions, moral dilemmas, and social obligations, portraying the conflict between individual aspirations and communal responsibilities. In Middlemarch, the provincial setting serves as a microcosm for larger societal issues, as Eliot examines how individuals are shaped by their social context. Williams points out Eliot's unique ability to depict psychological depth, highlighting how her narratives reveal the ways that social forces constrain individual desires. This focus on interiority, however, does not detract from her broader social critique. Rather, it intensifies the sense of moral and ethical tension that underpins her work, as characters struggle to reconcile their ideals with the demands of a hierarchical society. Thomas Hardy's novels deepen the exploration of individual struggles within a changing society, often revealing the tragic limitations imposed by social and natural forces. In novels like Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Jude the Obscure, Hardy's characters are frequently depicted as victims of fate, social norms, and natural forces that thwart their desires and aspirations. Williams views Hardy as a profoundly pessimistic writer, whose novels underscore the inevitability of suffering in a world governed by rigid class structures and moral conservatism. Hardy's landscapes and settings play an essential role, symbolizing the isolation and vulnerability of his characters within a society that marginalizes them. Williams highlights Hardy's portrayal of the agricultural working class, whose lives are disrupted by industrialization and social change, leading to a profound sense of alienation and loss. Through his tragic narratives, Hardy critiques the forces that dehumanize individuals, presenting an unflinching view of human suffering as a consequence of both natural and societal constraints. D.H. Lawrence represents a radical departure from the Victorian moralism and realism of his predecessors. In novels such as Sons and Lovers, Women in Love, and Lady Chatterley's Lover, Lawrence's exploration of sexuality, human instinct, and personal liberation challenges traditional norms. Williams argues that Lawrence's work reflects a more individualized, psychological approach to social criticism, where the focus is on personal relationships and emotional conflicts, rather than overt social structures. For Lawrence, the repressive nature of industrial society stifles the human spirit, alienating individuals from their desires and true selves. Williams notes that Lawrence's narratives delve into the inner lives of characters, revealing the psychological impact of social repression and advocating for a return to primal instinct and authentic relationships. Lawrence's exploration of sexuality and his critique of industrialization signify a rejection of both Victorian morality and the alienating effects of modern capitalism, advocating instead for a deeper connection to nature and the self. Throughout the English novel From Dickens to Lawrence, Williams emphasizes the role of class and social change as central themes. Each novelist, in their unique way, grapples with the transformations brought about by industrialization, urbanization, and the shift from rural to urban life. Williams highlights how Dickens, Eliot, Hardy, and Lawrence each portray different aspects of the English social hierarchy, using their characters to illustrate the inequalities and injustices perpetuated by this hierarchy. Dickens' focus on the urban poor, Eliot's examination of provincial life, Hardy's depiction of the agricultural working class, and Lawrence's attention to the psychological struggles of the individual, all reflect different facets of a society in flux. For Williams, the English novel serves as a medium through which these social issues are explored, critiqued, and understood. Williams also draws attention to the changing narrative techniques employed by these novelists. Dickens' serialized novels, with their episodic structure and cliffhangers, mirror the chaotic, fragmented experience of urban life, drawing readers into a world of interconnected stories and social issues. Eliot's use of an omniscient, morally engaged narrator allows her to probe the ethical dimensions of her characters' actions, while Hardy's tragic, deterministic narrative style underscores the futility of human aspirations in a hostile world. Lawrence's experimental narrative techniques, including free, indirect discourse and shifting perspectives, reflect his focus on psychological and emotional depth. Williams argues that these stylistic differences reflect each novelist's approach to representing the social and psychological complexities of their time, illustrating the evolution of narrative form in response to changing historical conditions. A significant theme in Williams' analysis is the tension between individual agency and social constraints. In Dickens' novels, characters are often subject to forces beyond their control, whether it be poverty, corruption, or bureaucratic indifference. However, Dickens also emphasizes the potential for personal redemption and moral choice, albeit within the limits of a rigid social structure. Eliot's characters face a more internalized struggle as they attempt to balance personal ambition with moral responsibility, often finding themselves constrained by societal expectations. Hardy's protagonists, by contrast, are portrayed as tragically powerless, caught in a deterministic world where social and natural forces conspire against them. Lawrence, in his focus on psychological liberation, presents a more optimistic vision of individual agency, suggesting that true freedom lies in rejecting societal norms and embracing one's instinct. William's Marxist perspective is evident in his treatment of these novels as critiques of capitalist society. He argues that each novelist, whether explicitly or implicitly, addresses the alienating effects of industrial capitalism on individuals and communities. Dickens' portrayal of urban poverty, Eliot's exploration of social responsibility, Hardy's depiction of rural decline, and Lawrence's critique of industrial repression all reflect a concern with the dehumanizing impact of capitalism. For Williams, the English novel provides a space for questioning the moral and ethical implications of capitalist society, revealing its failures and contradictions through the lives of ordinary characters. By examining how these novelists portray the struggles of individuals within an oppressive social order, Williams demonstrates how the English novel serves as a site for ideological critique, challenging readers to reflect on the nature of social justice and human dignity.